On today's podcast, we are welcoming Mike Manoske. Mike is an International Coaching Federation certified coach, but that title doesn't do Mike any justice on his accomplishments. Now, here's some quick facts about Mike. Mike has over 10 years of coaching experience, 2 decades as a recruiting leader. He's a startup founder in both healthcare and technology. Mike's also the author of an upcoming book called The Job Search Manifesto, and it's based on a successful program that he co-leads and that he helped develop at the Wharton EMBA program in San Francisco. Finally, Mike's also the director of coaching at Hire Club, which is a job search and career success community of almost 34,000 members. Now, what I like about Mike is that he brings entrepreneurial and industry insights to help prepare people and succeed in the job world. So, Mike, it's a pleasure to have you on the Business 360 podcast.
Oh, Rashab, great to be here. I love the work you're doing, and there's so much of a need for you to get the ideas and concepts that you've been sharing out. So, big fan already, man.
Thanks a lot, Mike. I appreciate it. And for those of you that don't know, Mike and I met on Clubhouse, which is a new social media audio-only app where you can essentially create topics and be a moderator and speak on it. And for those of you that attend those rooms, you can be a participant and engage in those conversations, or just an audience member and listen. How's Clubhouse been treating you, Mike?
Clubhouse has been fascinating. And I think we talked about this offline. I was reluctant to go on Clubhouse, partly because I'm busy. And the other is, another social media platform. How exciting. I got on there, like I said, I reluctantly showed up, but then I started talking to people like you. And, these really intelligent, interesting people doing, frankly, important things. And that really resonates with me. Give me a community of people that are like that, and I'm going to fully show up. So it's been a phenomenal experience. We've actually seen growth in some of the courses I teach, some of the public courses, a lot of interest in the book, and frankly, just getting the ideas that are important, that I feel are important from my practice out there. Been super rewarding.
You have you do a weekly room, right?
We're doing several a week right now.
Yeah.
We're involving more of our Hire Club is a community of over 34,000, and thank you for the plug on that. We also offer coaching, and so as director of coaching, I have about 50 coaches that are part of that community, serving the other community. We've been involving them in Clubhouse. So we've had dialogues in Clubhouse on everything from imposter syndrome to mental health issues. We have one of our coaches who's not only a certified coach, he's also a psychologist and has done a lot of work in this area. So we're trying to touch a lot of bases around the idea of how do you get through COVID? How do you get through this pandemic time? But how do you come out better, faster, stronger, and really sustain and grow your career from there? That's really been our mission on Clubhouse, and so far, great experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I got on Clubhouse in December, and there was, I think, only a couple 100,000. I think it was like the number was 600,000 people on the app, and I think today there's probably like 15 million or something, if not more.
15 to 20, yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
15 to 20, something like that. And I had a daily room with someone else. We were co-leading that room. We did it every day for 2 months straight. It was on entrepreneurship every day, Monday to Friday, sometimes Saturdays. And then it just, as more and more people got on the app, it was weird. There's more people on the app, but it felt like a ghost town.
Yeah.
And I think it's just because everyone was creating their own topics, or it became topic saturated, and the rooms started getting smaller. And we don't mind the intimate rooms where, there's maybe 8, 10, 12 people, and then you have some nice discussions, but because it's such a smaller room. But I found myself I found Clubhouse kind of lost its charm a little bit. I'm not saying that I think it's a great thing, because I've met probably 10 to 15 people off Clubhouse that have made a tremendous impact in my life, including yourself, in the last 3 months. And I've been on people's shows. I've networked with people. I've joined masterminds with them. I've created communities, and it's helping my own business. So I think it has so much great potential, but I think I just needed a break. So I've been off it really for like the last 2 weeks. I've done maybe 2 rooms each week at the end of the week, and then I've just and same with the other person I was co-leading. He also kind of was like, and we both built a pretty decent following, and then we still were just like, all right, it's not really about the followers. It's really about not wanting to be burnt out.
I think it's a great point. I'm looking at this going, okay, I'm at capacity. I
Mm,
couldn't add any more time if I even wanted to. Our objective is to get other voices in there. And so that, there are sessions where we're just kind of waving, it's like, oh, sure. We're adding points in, but we're really trying to get a broader range of voices. First of all, just for burnout of our own burnout.
yeah,
So,
absolutely agree. So
understand completely.
yeah, no, thank you for that, Mike. And so I wanted to bring Clubhouse up because you do so much in the coaching space. And like I've said, you're a career and leadership coach. So maybe you can tell the audience what exactly is your business, and who are the customers that you serve, and
Mhm.
really how do you help all these people?
So I work uh, with anybody who recognizes that on their career, they need to make a change. And sometimes, and oftentimes that changes, I need to change the job that I have. So as a recruiting leader for 20 years, still feels funny to say it, by the way, that was that long, but I understand the logistical part of the job search. From, okay, how do I leave? How do I update my, LinkedIn? How do I talk about myself, interview, negotiate, update my resume? Again, I can't stress LinkedIn enough. That's such a huge part of this. Um, I, I have expertise in that area. I provide the logistics side of it. Oftentimes, what comes up is a second layer, deeper questions, things around, wow, my self-evaluation isn't good. I've got some imposter syndrome. I'm wrestling with, quite frankly, my job was brutal and I maybe even struggling with some PTSD. How do I deal with that? So there's the top level logistics, the deeper questions that gets you through that process. But the next phase of that is the second half of my practice, which is, how do I do well in the new role? How do I go kick butt and take names? And how do I use that next opportunity to bounce even higher into the opportunity after it? So I describe my practice as job transition and career success. I'm an executive coach, but career success really is making sure that when you land in a new opportunity or you're in an opportunity, you get as much out of it as possible. And looking forward, I'm coaches, and coaching is all around forward looking. We're future based. We're going to get you through this, but the goal is to create skills that help you in the future just do better and better. We're scaling somebody.
That's beautifully said, that you're scaling somebody. And there's something you said in your answer that I think it's really important to highlight. You said some people may be suffering from PTSD. And I
Hmm.
think when we hear PTSD, a lot of times we think it's, someone that was in the armed services and
Right.
they were, coming back from overseas and they've
Mhm.
suffered something that's traumatic. But, I've seen this with entrepreneurs who've
Yep.
had, very, very difficult failures and,
Hmm.
were had the backs to the wall and may file bankruptcy. If not, they did. And so what have you seen with the job search side, the candidates, how they may potentially suffered PTSD?
So they've been in environments, you describe entrepreneurs who got up to the wall, had some really tough decisions. It was negatively impacting their personal life. You have the same thing in dysfunctional organizations, toxic workplaces. And probably the best way to describe it is someone who actually worked for me. I hired her as a recruiter. Um, she came in from an organization famous for a belligerent leader, the guy who would stand in the hallway and start, shouting F bombs at people. She came into my company, really talented. We were in a meeting one day and I said something and she went white.
Hmm.
And I held her back from the meeting. I said, What happened?" She goes, "I thought you were yelling at me." And I wasn't even close. And I said, "Wow, let's that's not my style. This is how I work." Da, da, da. She became incredibly effective, but she later on said she realized her first 2 weeks at our place, she was scared
Hmm.
because she was afraid somebody was going to yell at her, and or worse. And if you bring that kind of baggage, from a previous role or from a previous experience, from a previous failure, in the case of an entrepreneur, um, that stuff that lingers. That's like a rock on your back.
Yeah, we're in a decade of consciousness now, right? We're being more self-aware, and
Yep.
mental health is so important. And I wanted to highlight that because of
Yep.
mental health awareness, and for maybe any executive, entrepreneur, boss, leader out there that may be listening to this podcast, to have, I'm a big believer in empathy. So to have that
Yep.
empathetic outlook and see that when someone is coming in, how you treat your employees and creating the culture around it, so that no one should go to a job and have a PTSD diagnosis leaving that job. So
Exactly. And I think being aware of it, you raised a great point, Rashab. Being aware of it is 50% of it. That negative, I mean, we've seen it in personal lives, negative, poor relationships. It's the same thing in your career. And how do you shed the baggage? How do you get the rock off your back is a key part of my coaching. Because how do you can't go forward with that rock on your back. It's just gonna continue to slow you down.